allegations are surfacing in a very unexpected place. A man who is supposed to bring joy and holiness to the Jewish ritual of circumcision is now accused of something unthinkable, spreading a deadly disease to innocent babies.
It's a topic that not many people want to talk about, but an unlikely whistleblower, a young Orthodox Jewish woman, is now speaking out, claiming a local rabbi is infecting babies, making them sick. And what's worse, she says no one is doing anything to stop him.
In a practice known as metzitza b'peh, mohels suck on the circumcision cut of baby boys directly with their mouths to draw out blood, which they then mix with wine in their mouths, spit into a cup, and traditionally share with others to drink. The bizarre and shocking ritual has been known to spread herpes and syphilis from the mohel to the infant that sometimes causes the child to die, prompting New York City health officials to issue warnings against the practice. Let that sink in for a moment. The shining light unto the nations sucks blood from their infant boys and has been known to drink it. But blood isn't the only human bodily fluid and body part God's children consume. Since human beings are not technically animals, the severed foreskins, placenta, urine, embalmed and mummified flesh and breast milk of human beings are also on the kosher menu. Metzitza b'peh, sucking the blood from the wounded penis of a circumcised infant, is prescribed in the Babylonian Talmud in Mishnah Shabbat 19:2, where it says, "When the 8th day of a baby's life occurs on Shabbat, he must be circumcised on that day. Therefore, one performs all the necessities of the circumcision, even on Shabbat. One circumcises the foreskin and uncovers the skin by removing the thin membrane beneath the foreskin, and sucks the blood from the wound and places on it both a bandage and cumin as a salve. The mohel puts his mouth directly on the bloody wounded phallus, sucks out blood, mixes it with wine in his mouth, and spits the mixture into a cup, and then drinks it together with others. The Jewish Encyclopedia details the practice in its article, Circumcision. Mezizah. By this is meant the sucking of the blood from the wound. The mohel takes some wine in his mouth and applies his lips to the part involved in the operation and exerts suction, after which he expels the mixture of wine and blood into a receptacle provided for the purpose. This procedure is repeated several times and completes the operation except as to the control of the bleeding and the dressing of the wound. Multiple eyewitness accounts describe the horrific appearance of the mohel's mouth, which he deliberately leaves bloody. Leonard Glick quoted some of these first-hand reports in his book, Marked in Your Flesh, Circumcision from Ancient Judea to Modern America. Montaigne noted with particular interest the practice of metzitza. As soon as this gland is thus uncovered, they hastily offer some wine to the minister, who puts a little in his mouth and then goes and sucks the glands of this child, all bloody, and spits out the blood he has drawn from it, and immediately takes as much wine again, up to 3 times. Description of concluding phase of the ritual. He meanwhile still has his mouth all bloody. Fynes Morrison, an English traveler, described a circumcision he witnessed in Prague in 1592. Then the child's linen clothes being opened, the rabbi cut off his prepuce and did with his mouth suck the blood of his privy part, and after drawing and spitting out of much blood, sprinkled a red powder upon the wound. The prepuce he had at the first cutting cast into a gilt silver bowl full of wine, whereof the rabbi, the father, and the godfather did drink, sprinkling some drops into the child's mouth. Then the prepuce, or foreskin, was taken out and put into a box of salt to be buried after in the churchyard. Freumovich, Christian Travelers, 134 to 135, spelling and punctuation as in original. She spells the traveler's surname Morrison. The early 17th century traveler Thomas Coriate also remarked on metzitza when describing a circumcision he had witnessed. Having removed the foreskin, he reported the circumciser, after a very strange manner, unused, I believe, of the ancient Hebrews, did put his mouth to the child's yard and sucked up the blood. Shapiro, Shakespeare, 116. Coriate's comment about ancient Hebrew practice was correct. The scholarly literature makes frequent mention of the grotesque rite. Shea Cohen also documented witnesses' observations spanning centuries and noted their consistency. Ritual disposal of blood and foreskin, The blood of circumcision having become significant, its disposal now became an issue of importance and the subject of a wide variety of customs. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer itself endorses the custom of bearing the severed foreskin and the blood. This custom perhaps reflects the equation of circumcision with sacrifice, since, as we have seen, the blood of Abraham's circumcision entered the ground precisely where the blood of the atonement sacrifices would later be poured. Circumcision blood, like sacrificial blood, is to return to the earth. The Jews of medieval Babylonia, however, had a different custom. They allowed the circumcision blood to drip into a cup of water, and the resulting mixture was applied to the hands, in some versions the faces as well, of those assembled for the event. In Germany during the High Middle Ages, additional customs arose concerning the blood. After suctioning the wound, the circumciser would spit the blood from his mouth into a cup of wine, from which the baby would then be given a few drops to drink. The circumciser would use a cloth to wipe the blood off his hands and mouth, and this cloth would be spread over the synagogue entrance. The blood would be collected in a cup and poured out on the ground in front of the Torah ark. Some blood would be allowed to drip into the baby's swaddling clothes, from which a Torah binder, a wimple, would later be made and presented to the synagogue. Montaigne, alas, does not tell us what became of the severed foreskin or of the wine-blood mixture at the circumcision that he witnessed in 1581. Montaigne is struck by the fact that the circumciser allows his mouth to remain bloody while he recites the benedictions. Even at the end of the ceremony, after everyone has had the opportunity to inhale the fragrance from the spice container, he meanwhile still has his mouth all bloody. A circumciser writing in Modena, circa 1805, says that the circumciser should recite the benedictions after the circumcision with the blood of the suction, metzitza, still on his mouth. Such is the custom in Modena, he says, which follows the custom of Saloniki, Salonika. This is the very custom that Montaigne witnessed in Rome 2¼ centuries earlier. Similarly, Rabbi David ben Samuel Halevi of Poland, 1586 to 1667, reports that Rabbi Feibush of Krakow would not wipe his mouth after performing a circumcision on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, so that he could blow the shofar with a mouth dirtied by the blood of circumcision. His goal was to mix the fulfillment of the commandment of circumcision with the commandment of shofar. In contrast, Rabbi David Abudaram, 14th century, also known as Abu Draham, whom we will meet again in chapter 5, says that a circumciser must wash his hands and mouth before reciting the benedictions, so that he may utter the prayers in cleanliness. Montaigne also reports that the Jews told him that he who has circumcised up to a certain number, which they know when he is dead has this privilege, that the parts of his mouth are never eaten by worms. This is a striking statement, and I leave it for others to elucidate. The mouth of the circumciser is spared from post-mortem corruption because the mouth has come into direct contact with the circumcision and the blood. If circumcision and/or circumcision blood can ward away death and protect one from the torments of Gehenna, surely they can also ward away the corruption of the body. The emphasis on the mouth suggests that the organ that performs the metzitza, suctioning, enjoys the greatest boon in the hereafter. Women would eat the baby boy's shorn foreskin in the hopes that it would render them fertile and cause them to bear sons. This practice is documented in Shut Harashbash Semen 518, which states, "In any case, according to this, we got a prohibition on why the women used to swallow the foreskin of the males that were cut at the time of circumcision in order to give birth to the males. But according to the Tosaf Sheri Daha, I do not replace it with the flesh of an unclean animal, nor do I remove the blood of fish that entered the Dayat Bia Kashindeshri, because the Dayat Bia Hikra and Haka Namihachi, and what I wrote, that's enough for you in my opinion." These cannibalistic practices extend beyond blood and foreskins. Rabbi Dov Linzer listed additional instances of the human consumption and use of human body parts. Over the centuries, halakhic questions regarding the use of human flesh or human byproducts concerned its use for medical remedies, folk remedies, or segulot, protective charms or rituals. Examples include ingesting embalmed and mummified flesh used as a standard medicinal ingredient, mumia, wearing belts from human skin, or burning human teeth as a type of medical segula, swallowing the foreskin removed at the Brit Milah as a segula to treat infertility or to have male children, ingesting breast milk to cure a wide range of ailments, drinking urine to cure various illnesses, burying the placenta as a charm for keeping the newborn warm, and eating the placenta as a cure for infertility. Here are the citations presented in the notations for the article. The Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Shabbat, folio 133b, explains that the Metzitza B'Peh is performed to prevent harm. It has proven to instead spread sexually transmitted diseases from the moil to the baby boy, which sometimes prove fatal or debilitative. Israelis are known to harvest organs from the Palestinians. They kill and sell them on the open market. During their festival of Purim, they eat pastries representing the human ears of Haman the Amalekite. This is how this cannibalistic people shine their light onto the nations.